As I sit by the sea, drink tequila by the shade of a tree, there's a senorita sat on my knee, sprinkling sand all over me. Hello there, I'm playing Mortal Kombat 10 and I thought I'd offer up some thoughts on the game, which was described as one person as a mature game aimed at 12-year-olds, which to be honest makes it just seem all the better. I had to buy it once I heard that sentence. Okay, right, so where do we start? I think the first thing we should start with is the factions, because it's a new feature of this game, and as soon as you launch the game for the first time, it'll ask you to join a faction. What this does basically is it sets you amount of tasks for the day. You can earn points through doing certain things, which I may touch on a bit later in the review. But for the most part, I'll just mention right now that you've got usually 3 tasks a day. You sometimes get invasions. You take part in these, you earn points for your faction. And if your faction is champion by the end of the week, then you get to earn more coins, usually, I think it is. It's usually your reward for it if you're playing under the faction that are champion. And also you get a special faction kill, which is another new feature of the game. It's just kind of like an easy, simple to do fatality. Again, I'll talk more about the factions and the things you can do to earn faction points a little bit later on. Okay. Now, the actual fighting system itself will feel a lot stiffer when you compare it to a game, say, like Tekken or Dead or Alive or something like that. It certainly requires a bit more skill in order to play this game, at least at a beginner level. You'll find, unlike a game like Tekken, where you can sit down with someone and they can mash buttons and do ridiculous combos and things like that, you can't do that with Mortal Kombat. It's I suppose, despite the graphics of the game, this is a 2D fighter, and that is something which I really want to touch on, is the animation on this game. I think is fantastic. I think it's absolutely incredible. I never really hear anyone really talk about it, but it just all seems very smooth. It all seems... I hesitate to use the word realistic, because it's all done incredibly quickly, and a lot of the moves are very out there. But the movements all look natural, very, very fast, but natural, which I think is a massive bonus for this game. I think, in terms of animation, I prefer this to something like Street Fighter or something like that. I think because Street Fighter likes to do a lot of stop frame animation and stuff like that. I don't know. I suppose this game sort of does at the same time. Okay. Right, let's talk a bit about the systems a bit. You have a power meter down in the bottom corner for your character, which can be managed in a number of ways. You have such things as enhanced versions of special moves. You've got combo breakers. I swear it can be used for other things as well. Oh yes, the X-ray attacks is the other thing, which, to be honest, as a carryover from Mortal Kombat 9, it is something that gets a little much after a while. I mean, these aren't like some of your super moves you see in other games like Street Fighter. These go on for a good 20 seconds, I think, and sometimes really break up the fight, which I suppose as much of a useful tool as it can be if you feel like you need a breather. At the same time, it gets a bit old after a while when you're seeing them all the time, and I don't know, it's one of those things where it's a shame they couldn't have been made a little bit quicker. Saying that, some of them are incredibly cool, especially Error and Blacks. I love the whole bullet with the name on thing. Fatalities. They feel a hell of a lot easier to do on this one, which is funny considering they have the infamous easy fatality credit system online, which is ridiculous, and obviously there's been a lot of outcry over that. They seem to be losing their appeal a bit now as well. I think because they're easier to do and you see them all the time, it makes them a little bit less special. But what is great is the brutalities. They are absolutely fantastic. They feel natural when you're playing the game. They, as you can see here, they kind of keep up with the flow of the game. I really love them. I prefer to try to do those than the actual fatalities themselves. Saying that, the fatalities have got a sense of humour to them. I will say that, and for the most part, when you're first playing the game, they are really enjoyable, especially the one everyone's seen, Cassie's little selfie fatality. Okay, I think that just about covers the fighting system. I'll talk a little bit about the story mode now. I feel as if this story mode is weaker than 9's, and I know a lot of people have been saying that, but I still think attention has to be drawn to how well voiced this is. The voice acting is absolutely brilliant in this, again, especially compared to something like Dead or Alive, where it was pretty horrible. Same can be said about the story. As much as the story isn't as good in this one and feels a bit Saturday morning cartoonish, albeit, again, a very mature one, once again, harking back to that whole a mature game aimed at 12-year-olds moniker. It does, however, feel competently told as such, which, again, is something that can't be said about a game like Dead or Alive. This one actually still gets good marks for its story mode. I really enjoyed it. It was shorter than the Mortal Kombat 9 one. I don't know why I was about to say Final Fantasy. I've got it on my mind at the moment. Right. But yeah, it's enjoyable. Okay. The game also sees the introduction of a lot of new characters as well. And to be honest, I like a lot of them. The 4 that will be covered a lot during the story mode: Cassie Cage, the daughter of Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade. You have Jackie Briggs, the daughter of Jax. I get confused, I really do. You have Kung Jin, who is related to Kung Lao in some way. I'm not entirely sure how. I think they mentioned he's a cousin or something. And then you have Takeda, who is the son of Kenshi. Now, these 4 get quite a lot of story put to them in the story mode, as well as one of the other villains, Demora, who's kind of like this spiderish type woman. They're all really good characters. I really like playing as, at least I like playing as Cassie Cage, and Jackie's quite good, and so is Kung Jin. I don't get on quite so well with Takeda. But then you have some other characters as well who you really don't learn very much at all about, like Ferrator, and of course my favourite Aaron Black, who honestly I've heard loads of people say he's their favourite, which makes you think that they really dropped the ball with that one, and I think in the next Mortal Kombat game you may possibly be seeing more of him after the fan reaction to him. Oh, of course you have Kotal Khan as well, who's another new character. Again, his role in the game is covered quite deeply within the story mode again. Okay, so what else is available in this game outside of the story mode? Well, you have a series of towers that you can go through. You have the classic tower, which is just your basic playthrough, opponent after opponent, sometimes broken up by a test your might routine. There's actually is a tower entirely devoted to test your might, which is kind of a cool little throwback as well, albeit a case of button mashing your way through it. It's still nice to see. You've then got your survival, and it's kind of like 2 different survival modes based in towers as well. And then you've got what is probably the more interesting living towers. And what these are a series of towers that change weekly, daily, and hourly. And these tend to put nice little gameplay gimmicks into it as well, and just offers a nice little twist. Again, this is offering stuff for offline gamers like me that don't really like to get involved in the whole online competitive modes and stuff like that, which do offer things like King of the Hill and a few other game modes that I'm not really too interested in and won't really be covering because I don't really play them. Other features, well, you have the test your luck mode as well, which I've got to admit I don't play all that often, but it is, again, it's a nice little feature where basically you pick your fighter, it draws a random opponent for you, and then it kind of like slaps on up to 7 game modifiers that can change the way that the fight plays out, and you just play your way through that. It can either work for you or against you, hence the name. Lastly, and sadly, I want to talk about what is probably my favourite part of the game, which is the crypt. I really love the way this is presented, and I know this sounds bad when this is essentially just the place where you unlock stuff, but I loved wandering around and finding all the crypts and things like that, exploring the environments. There's 3 very different environments, and again in the game it kind of like represents the diversity between stages that you can play on as well, which is another really cool feature of the game. But it's kind of just one of these things where there are some really basic puzzles which just basically involve going off, finding an item and then using them in certain places in order to get to new places in the crypt. And it's a neat little way of being able to unlock things like extra fatalities, brutalities. There's concept art here, there's background music. It's all very neat and just a rather enjoyable experience. You also get little shocks every now and again as a monster attacks you when you're in there. It's all it is a quick time event in order to earn just a few extra coins. But it's still a neat little addition to it. It's something I really enjoy. I think I spent a good hour or so in there when I first went in there just to have a look around and stuff like that. Really enjoyed it, thought it was really, really cool. So yeah, that more or less brings to conclusion my thoughts on the game. Like I said, I'm still playing through it, I'm still learning, I'm still getting better at it, but even as someone that doesn't like to play competitive online, this still does offer a hell of a lot for the player. It's one I'm definitely going to keep coming back to now and again. Like I said, I really enjoy the new characters. I also really like the stage interaction, something I really forgot to mention earlier. It's something that's come back from Injustice, I think, was where it was in. I think it was in Mortal Kombat vs DC as well. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I can really recommend this. There are a couple of downsides to it, such as the micropayment system. I mean, you can buy to unlock everything in the crypt and stuff like that, but it's stuff you don't have to get. Apart from that, I don't know. I really can't think of a great deal of negatives to this game. I think, like most fighting games, it does suffer after a while, and despite the fact that it's got all that content in there, if you're not a big fighting fan and you do play by yourself usually, it will lose its appeal after a while. I really can't stress that. I still tend to find I can only play it in 1 or 2 hour bursts. I can't really play it like spend a day on it or something like that. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this anyway. If you've got things to add yourself or disagree with anything I say, please feel free to leave stuff in the comments. Okay, thanks for that. See you guys later. Bye bye.